Okay, just came back from the shuttle from Hope. A lot of smoke in the air. Uh, Apparently the fires started back up here, and I asked the Lord, says, we don't need this fire anymore, you know, so I asked God to handle it. Anyway, I've been thinking about doing this particular video. It has to do with the GOSHENs, the end time community camps, the cities of light. Jenny, this video goes out to your group. It's something that the Lord has put in my spirit. And so the GOSHENs, they stand for God ordained sustainable housing for emergency networking, right? They're a GOSHEN is a how can I say it, in opposition to Agenda 2030 and the 15-minute cities. You do not want, if you're a believer, you do not want to go to the 15-minute cities because it's going to cost you something, right? Eventually you're going to have to take that on your right hand. And as far as I understand, that the 15-minute cities will be implemented by 2030 after they eliminate, after global genocide takes place where the elite want to eliminate 90% of the population. God's not going to allow them to do that. It might be a third according to the book of Revelations. But anyway, the Lord gave me something in conjunction with the GOSHENs, right? And this may help to draw the people together, right? And years ago, when I was in Texas, I was staying with Claude Johnson. His older brother staying on the 92. For those of you that understand about Bangs, Texas, and David Terrell, God's prophet to the world, the 92 was a going place at the time, 92 acres. Claude Johnson, he was the last one. He actually ended up passing away on that property. The Lord gave him 15 years extra, and he must have been up in his 90s when he passed, but he loved gardening. But anyway, he had a vision where he saw me sitting on it was like a basement construction, and I was sitting on the main beam in the center, and there were young people all the way around, and the floor joists were being handed to me from the outside, and I was nailing the floor joists to the main beam, and the interpretation was that the Lord was going to use me as a spiritual carpenter, I guess, to begin to bring together the foundation of the Lord's house, right? And we're talking about spiritually. We're talking about the members of the body of Christ coming together. That's the interpretation. Where God's going to bring together the members out of all these different faiths that are out there, in a Christian faith, right? That there's going to be a coming out of Babylon, and where the churches are going to leave behind their form of godliness, their religiosity, and rise up and come together in the love of God, right? This is what it's all about. It's the love of God that's going to gather and transform the church into it's going to be unbeatable, right? God's going to raise up the bride, and this was seen by I forget that guy, not Tony Some guy back in the 30s, he saw this. The church was bound, laying on it, just like that show about this guy goes and he finds this island, and he wakes up and he was all tied down by these little people, like that. The church is pinned down and tied down, and it actually begins to rise up. As the head begins to rise up, it's going to begin to break the bonds. Then the head rises up, then the body rises up, and then the bride of Christ, and then this giant is going to stand on his feet. And at that point, it's unstoppable. God's bringing forth an outpouring of the glory of the latter house, and it's going to be unstoppable. And so the tactic of the enemy is to divide and conquer. But God's about to pour out his love, and there's going to be an ingathering and a rising up. Anyway, in conjunction with this, this is something that you can pray about, you can take before the Lord, and seriously pray about it. Don't just say, don't agree to it, don't be negative to it. That it's important that you take this before the Lord. Take it before the throne of God to see what the Lord speaks to you, right? It's up to you to check out to see what I'm saying is from the Lord. And we're about at the 7-minute mark now. But getting back to the Goshens, I don't know, some of you might know about the WOOFER program, and I had the privilege about 4 years ago or so to work at a WOOFER camp in the Okanagan. It's way up high, and so I have firsthand knowledge being there, and I saw people from different parts of the world that came there, and just to taking the magic, and they got to partake in exchange that they would donate 4 or 5 hours a day. The WOOFER, you can check it out. The WOOFER, WOOFER, and that really touched my heart, And the times we're coming into, a lot of these Christian camps, I believe it's going to come together in the same way, but it's not going to be a WOOFER program. It's going to be a GOSHEN concept. And a few days ago, what the Lord dropped in my spirit was a GOSHEN exchange program, GEP, GOSHEN exchange program. And that's where your group comes in, and Jenny, and in Canada and America, is those of you that have taken the first step and got your bug out bag together, right? Needs to go beyond that. Times you're coming into, because the banks are going to be in trouble. There's going to be foreclosures. There's going to be lots of people with no place to stay. People that have homes are going to lose their homes. And it's going to be a repeat of what took place in the 1930s. A lot of people being displaced, moving from place to place. So they need a place to go. And so this GOSHEN exchange program, in order to make it work, you need the land. God to supply the land, right? And it's going to take the economy of heaven to make it work. More than just money. You can have the resources, but it's going to take the manifest presence of the Lord to bring this together. And otherwise it's of the flesh. It has to be by the moving of the Spirit. And so if you have land already, or we're coming into the time where there's going to be a transfer of wealth, right? An exodus move. God's going to make land available. We're going through a time of shaking, where God's going to prepare the hearts of the people, right? We're at the point of a perfect storm with all this stuff happening in the cosmos, and with Nibiru coming in, global warming happening, that the Earth uh, is really going to become active, you know, and with all these fires is just a start, and all this they're going to blame it on climate change, but what's coming has nothing to do with climate change. It's God's judgment upon sin. That's the shaking that's coming, the perfect storm. Well, there's going to be a transfer of wealth. I'm talking more than just money. That God's going to remove the righteous from the cities into the country. There's going to be, a transfer, and they're going to take the wealth with them. And so this is just an idea that the Holy Spirit has put in my heart. So I'm planting a seed. I'm planting a seed, right? So if you have land or land's coming to you, this is something that you can do now. We're at the time that soon you will be forced to take your 401ks and your life savings. You're going to have to take it out of your bank or lose it. That's going to be your choice. So this is an investment strategy that you can invest in, not for me. Like this G.O.S.H.E.N exchange program, this is what the Lord showed me, needs to be established in every state across America. That every state needs to have someone that's going to take the responsibility to take this seed and to plant it in that state, and to open 6 other sub sites, right? So you might have a 20-acre plot, you might have a 40-acre plot, maybe you got a section of land, and so you need to get it started, and from that 6 other areas will rise up out of that, right? So you're responsible to get it going in the state that you're at, and also responsible to raise up 6 other subsidiaries, I guess what you would call it, right? So this would be a franchise, right? This would be a franchise, so I can generate a little bit of income here, and I want to be able to get off my retirement and be able to, I would love for the Lord to open up some land to be able to develop this vision. And in order to make it work, you need something similar to the WOOFER program. And for the WOOFER program, you need some sort of method, strategy to set up portable housing. Because people come, they can see these blessed areas being developed, but you need a place to stay. You need a economical, highly efficient way to build this low cost housing initiative, and to where you could build all the components between 7 to 10 days. So you would have crews set up to manufacture the components. And I'll show you. I may have to do a part 2 video on this. It might be best. I can just give you a glimpse. This way that we're already at 15 minutes, right? I want to try to keep these videos at 20 minutes. And to where you can actually take a shelter logic tent. A shelter logic tent that's 13 by 20 foot. High profile one, right? I set this one up a year ago. I got it on sale. It was $1,500. I think I got it for $1,300. Time I paid for my gas, and I still had to go pick it up, right? I had to drive several hundred miles to pick it up, kilometers. A 3.5 hour drive away. Anyway, so when I set it up here this year, I was able to to do pour a light foundation and to set up a 16-inch pony wall to give the shelter logic tent a uplift, and it really transformed the tent, and I started to bring out the potential. It's anchored down, it's up in the air, not going to blow away. Beautiful, beautiful. And I was able to secure the ends of the tent and the back of the tent. And so I've been thinking it through this past week, right? And there are 7 to 8 upgrades that brings you to a place where once you got your floor and your side panels in, you got your upper loft floor in, and you got your archway set in place. And what you're doing is that you're building sections that go in between the 2-inch steel pipe, and it can be done. You could actually make a kit to where you could transform the whole concept. And I probably would go to I've been thinking about either maybe a 2x6 construction, right, instead of 2x4. It's going to give you the extra security. You could use 2x4. I think 2x6 is going to work better. And I would use the same concept. It's something I have to work out, right? But when I made this place here, the floor that I'm sitting on, I used 2x4 framework. And for my floor joists, I'll put in 2x4. But I've routed out the 2x6 and put in the 2x4 with 5/8 plywood on top. And now I've used it for 3.5 years already, and it works beautiful. But you want to space your floor joists 16 inches on center, right? But it worked out well. So that could be used for the floor. So I'm just going to run you through really quick on the upgrades. And the first thing you would do, purchase your shelter logic system, right? And when you begin to do your prep, this is what I would do if you got a permanent location, is to pour your footing and your floor to make your floor in-floor heating. So I'm going to the full concept of this. This is for permanent. So you have in-floor heating. You would have your stove, your furnace on the outside, hot water heating, right? That is the most efficient system. So you got your floor in here. Then you want to put in a hallway through the center from one end to the next. And this is to give support, because you're talking about you need to prepare for earthquakes too, right? Gives you support. And this is like a cold storage for your food, right? Someplace where the rats are not going to be able to get at it. Times you're coming into is going to be critical to be able to cool your place, right? And have an underground corridor, say 4 feet wide, it's going to do the job. It's not all that much extra work, right? And it can be done quick. A crew can come in, and it's 3 days. Your cement work is done. And there's more I want to get into it, but I need to draw up the schematics. So even if you got a temporary setup, you could pour your footing. And the one I've done here was 5.5 inch. But if you're going to go to the first upgrade, I would go to 7.25, using like a 2x8, right? And so you set your, uh, that's for a 2x4 pony wall, right? So you set your bolts in there, right? I'd probably put a sleeper with the bolts already through it, and leave that treated sleeper onto the concrete, and I would have a second sleeper done up the same way. You guys that do concrete work, you understand what I'm saying. And so the first day crew comes in, puts in your forms, pour the concretes, sets up your bolts. Right, you do all the way around. That's not hard. You can pre-make your forms to do this and break away. So you just come in, you dig out, you set your formworks, you level it, pack everything down, put in your steel, pour your concrete, put on your plates on the top with your bolts, walk away. Come back in 3 days. That's phase one. Phase two, or stage two, you set up your pony walls. Everything is pre-made in advance. You come in, bolt it down, right? Couple hours, your pony wall is up. I probably go from, instead of 16, I would use a 32. You want that height, right? And so this is stage two. And so once your pony wall's on, you set up your shelter logic tent. So by the end of the third day, your tent is up. What I have here, you'll have that. So the third would be to lay in your floor sections, lay up your wall sections, and lay up your ceiling sections. So you got a crew that comes in on the fourth day. They drop the 4x12 wall panels. These are fully insulated uh, onto the, this is your main floor that you're putting in. You might have a sleeper in the center to take out some bounce. And you drop, put in your on this one here, it would be 5 wall sections and 5 wall sections. Then you put on your seating sections. You do that one day. That's day 4. Day 5, you have the another crew coming in. These are all crews that are trained in advance. So on day 5, you got another crew coming in. They install the arch panels. We'd have to form some arch panels that would go in between the steel posts, right? And so the inside is all fitted with 3/8 fir plywood, and fir is a little better than SPF, whatever you can get, basically. And so the inside is all finished off with plywood. And where the seams come together, you may have some backing behind it. There may be a strip of finished wood on the inside. That's it, all done. And maybe with a nice stain on the outside. The back of all your framework would be like a house wrap, right? A house wrap would fully cover the outside. And you can do your day 4 and day 5 would be your framework, right? And to get everything and your end walls. So day 5 would be your day 4. You should have your day 4. You should have your walls and your floors in. Uh, day 5, you would do your upper loft area and your end walls. That's your doors, your windows, and everything. You could keep your shelter logic. You can keep the skin on it, right? That's going to protect it from the weather. You're good to go. You got a very low cost but ultra efficient system that can be built in advance in sections. You have your floor and your ceiling components identical. One's a little bit longer than the other, 12, 13 feet, right, at most. You got your 5 wall panels here. You got your 5 wall panels here. They're around just under 6 foot. You got your pony wall sections, right? That could be made into a 12 and an 8, so it carries on a transport. You have your upper uh, upper loft sections, right? That's going to take a little bit to make that. And if you go 2x4, you'd have full bat insulation. If you go to 2x6, you could use the same protocol as you do your floor. That you could router in your but you're doing an upright, right? You'd router in for your 2x4s in your 2x6 plate, and so that between the 2x4s you got full bat, bat insulation, and over that you got 2-inch styrofoam, and with your house wrap over top of that. It does not get any better than that. It's going to keep in the heat, keep out the cold. In the summertime, it's going to keep out the heat and keep in the cold. And then you'll be using your air exchange from your basement or your geothermal. There's a simple geothermal that can be set up with that to where you use the earth as your cooling and your heating. Once you're set up, that there's no need, that it's not going to freeze, it's not going to overheat. And this is where your GOSHEN exchange program comes in. People that come, they pay to come, right? They pay to come. You teach them the concepts. You teach them how to develop to build one of these shelter logic systems, right? So they can go back home and they can replicate the work. And so you have a WOOFER concept in place where people come over, they experience the beauty of God's people working together in harmony and unity and the love of God, right? And that provides they provide the volunteer labor to learn this concept. So they're getting something in exchange to take it back to their country. So this GEP can be replicated around the world. I think you're going to love this, Jenny. You're going to love it, and especially for the brothers and sisters that are in India, fleeing persecution, fleeing death and destruction, and persecution, coming to America and Canada. That this shelter logic system can be used to set up the 1 acre micro camps that the Lord's given me, the plans for setting up the GOSHENs. And now it's the time. Now is the time. And in this lockdown that's coming, you could use this time to start building the components. But I need to start here. I need to start this concept here. And in order to use what I have, I can just show you what I have from here. That's the, it's kind of hard to see, but that's it there. You can see how high it is, about 14 foot. And but I need to be able to build make the floor sections. They're going to have to pull everything back. I'm going to have to pour some more concrete because I need a ledger, right, to be able to set the floor sections on. And so I want to be able to put down 3 floor sections, then develop the wall panel systems on either side. I don't know whether I could go to 2x6 framework for the walls at this point. What I would have to do for that, I would have to put a 2x6 plate on my pony wall. I think what I might do is just make it out of 2x4, because that's still going to do the job, right? Not as efficient, but it's going to work and it'll be a little bit easier. And so basically your framework, you're going to bring your framework within about 1.5 inches of your steel pipe, right? You can allow your plywood to overlap, so the pipe's going to be in the center of the framework. and or the pipe is going to be at, you know, it's going to be at the edge of the shelter logic system, right? It's either in the center or it's off to one side. And the reason for that is where the plywood comes together inside, that's going to be a seam. So you put a little bit of backing behind it, and you pack your insulation in, and then you could do it up on the back part. You would have your fabric material over top. And I thought it through. I spent a lot of hours thinking this through, and the potential is there. A little bit of a challenge, but I've probably thought about 90% of this through. And I could do a quick run on the material. It doesn't take long to calculate how much lumber that's going to take to make the floor or the ceilings. That's easy enough. What's going to cost is the 4x8 2-inch styrofoam. That's where your cost is going to be, and your bad insulation, and your house wrap. Your house wrap is you want to get a good grade, and then when, you want to make sure that you button down your house wrap on the back, right? I'll probably use 1.5 inch strips of plywood, right? And that way it's going to keep the mice and all that from getting in. I hate mice and I hate rats. So the floor and the ceiling components, easy enough, easy breezy, 1, 2, 3. The wall components, it's going to take a little bit, because you have to drill, you have to cut out, or you have a pipe that comes across about a foot off the bottom plate. So you would have to drill that, and you want to go 16 inches on center. So if you're making a wall section, your basic size is 4 by 6 feet, and so you make your framework with 4 studs and 2 plates. So that'd be all 8-foot material. So take 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 by 4 by 8, right? You can have a little bit left over. That's going to go somewhere else, and then you would have another 2 by 4 for your top and bottom plate. So that's for one wall section. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wall sections. I want to be able to do 3. So that's 5, 5, 5, 15 times 2 is 30, 32 by 4s, and plus the insulation and the plywood. And so it would take the same amount of plywood, because you want to put your plywood vertically. You'd have a little bit left over, but the leftover plywood would go for your pony wall. So there's no waste. So maybe that's going to work. It's going to work quite well, actually. And so I want to be able to do that, to make a 12 by 13 work area, right? Enclosed, because I'm going to be doing this in the winter, and and so I can actually on part 2 you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And I want to be able to turn what I have into a workable workshop, indoor workshop with heat and light and power for the winter, right? And so this here it'd be the low cost housing, right? Yet highly efficient system. And if I was going to set this up on a GOSHEN camp, I would make 2 of these, one here, one over here, and one in the center. And so you would have 20, 20, and 20. So in the center is where you come and gather. You'd have your staircase going up to the upper loft. So your heat would rise up, because you'd have your stove and all that in the center. So your heat would rise up, and you'd have a place for the men, you got a place for the women. You got the perfect woofer setup. So people come from other countries and come over, and they stay for 10 days, and you show them how it's done. You show them how it's done. You teach them how to make the components, and you teach them how to set up the components. This is a win-win situation. Jenny, it's going to work. You're just, I didn't know the Lord's timing, but God's really amazing how he even being here, it's really amazing. And but I see the potential of the shelter logic system. I checked online, and I think one other person did an upgrade in the desert, and but not to the extent of what the Holy Spirit's been putting in me as a low-cost initiative, where people can, if you got the land, this can be built. People can come and gather, and be taught the concept, where they can take it back to their own country. And so, Jenny, those that are, throughout the states, and part of your group, it's gonna give them a business. Someone's gonna have to take responsibility and go from having just a bug out bag or whatever to actually building a Goshen. This is going to work, and people will come. If you build it, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. God will send the help, right? And it's a recession-proof business, and because there's going to be a need for these, and the government has no interest on providing affordable, portable accommodation. Now their concept of helping up the masses is to put you into a FEMA camp, right, or a 15-minute city. So there needs to be an opposition. There needs to be a people that's going to rise up and resist the New World Order, and that's the man shell company that's about to be birthed in the heavens. The resistance in places where Jesus becomes the strong tower in these camps, right? You build these camps, these Field of Dreams, and they will come. God will gather the bride into these end time places, into these Goshen camps, because the love of God is what is going to make it work. Going to end it here. God bless you.